I don't even think I filmed an intro for the last one because I'm filming all of these in like 30 minutes in my room because I want to read it. I don't know, but this is exactly probably what the title of the video says it is, which is I found my suicide note 3 years ago. To burp. I found my suicide note from years ago and I didn't write it, and this is part 3. And the comments say that there's a motherfucking twist. So let's just get right down into that. I clicked off of it. Oh no. I found it. I saved it because I'm a professional. Okay. Okay, part 3. I had reached my conclusion. At this point, it was very clear to me who had written the suicide note in the first place, broken into my house, kicked my ass, and left me bleeding on the floor. Was it Elliot? I pretended as though everything was okay as the day went on. I would steal furtive glances at my brother whenever he wasn't paying attention, wondering why he had written the note in the first place. Oh, it was his brother. What if his brother killed him because, like, jealousy? That'd be boring. What could I have possibly done to him growing up? Sure, he was definitely more, I get it. The brother went outside for a smoke, and then he like went to beat up. Okay, so the brother took the phone, went outside for a smoke, went to Darby's house, beat him up, and then like faked a robbery so that he would have a reason to have like bloody knuckles. Oh my gosh, fun fact, one time in high school, I scraped up my knuckles, but it like looked like I had gotten into a fight because I had like busted up bloody knuckles, and so there was this guy, and he was very, very strong, and we all called him a bag of rocks, and like if you ever needed something lifted, he was the one, and I asked him if I could tell people that we got in a fight, and I won, and that's why my knuckles were so bloody, and he said yes. So spread the rumor I got in a fight with him, and I won. Okay, what could I have possibly done to him growing up? Sure, he was definitely more like Dad, a macho man who liked to play sports and go hunting. Dad was a retired construction worker, and my brother had followed in his footsteps. I, however, had always been more like Mom, bookish, clever, and a people person. The reason I had gotten into psychology was due to the fact that it was her line of study too. Despite our differences, however, my brother and I had never had any issues. At least, I had thought so until recent developments, i.e. him trying to fucking kill you. My brother's wife, Veronica, showed up later on in the day. My mom and Mac both decided to take naps, but my dad insisted on staying awake, sitting in his favorite chair with his pistol in his lap. I'll give that asshole something to steal. What does that mean? He said as he stared through the window into the front yard. He lasted all of 5 minutes before he was snoring just as loudly as Mac was upstairs. Veronica asked if I wanted to go to the park with she and Elliot, but I declined. Once she pulled out of the driveway, I knew I had my chance. I grabbed Mac's keys from the counter and snuck out to his truck. Though he had tossed a jacket over them, I found quite the collection of things in a box. For starters, my mom's, dad's, Mac's, and my own cell phone were all there. My house key, which I figured had been easy for Mac to swipe from my parents, and there were 3 different books. I glanced towards the house, just to be sure I was still alone, and then examined the books closely. One of them was falling apart and covered in dust, clearly from the attic. The title read, Le Livre de Contrôle de Hanner. It's more French, first of all, but I think it loosely translates to the Book of Control, assuming it's a cognate of Hannerson, which is capitalized, and I'm assuming a name, and looked to have been handwritten in French, though in later pages of the book, English had been scrawled. I didn't bother reading it. The other 2 books were the real bread and butter, because I recognized one of them. I hadn't seen the red cover in years. It was my journal, which I had stopped writing in when I was probably 15 or 16. The 3rd book was green, with the name Mac scribbled sloppily on the front. I swiped both journals and all of the cell phones. If I found answers, I would need to get to that police as quickly as possible. I couldn't risk Mac waking up and leaving the house with the phones in his possession. I made my way to the backyard and hid my own and my mom's phone under a few rocks near the back door. These were the ones that were most important. In the event something happened to me, I knew the cops would search the premises for clues. This evidence seemed to incriminate my mother, but I knew all it would take was a fingerprint examination to discover that my brother had been the one in my house last night. I found a secluded spot behind a tree and flipped open my brother's journal. There were most typical things you would see a kid write about, but there were other strange things sprinkled in too. Grandpa says that I am not good enough to carry along the family legacy. He says I will never be more than a sheep. Darby is their favorite, I know it. Dad takes me hunting, but Darby is the one who brings him home good grades and awards. Mom even says he's too smart. I don't remember doing my chores, but Darb says I did them. I think I have memory loss or cancer or something. I forget doing a lot of things. Maybe Dad will take me to the hospital. As Mac got older, however, his journal entries began to focus on regular things teenage boys should write about. I didn't find anything cruel or any sort of jealous words about myself in those pages. I then turned my attention to some orange-inked entries from my own journal. Remember, orange was his favorite color to write in as a kid. Dad took Mac out of school early to go and watch the baseball game. That's fine with me. Grandpa says I don't have time for sports. He says he will teach me the family way when I get old enough. Grandpa died in his sleep. I have been crying all night, but Dad says everything will be okay. I asked him if he will teach me the family way, but he doesn't know what I am talking about. What is the family way? Oh my god, that is the twist. I cannot wait for the family way. There's like a lot of French in this, which is so weird because I talked about French in the first part when I didn't even know, so I'm a psychic. Thank you, Abby. Mom has been trying to teach me some weird words, but all I remember is six, navire, plie-moi, and something dollar. Dollar. I'd much rather go to the science fair today. I think she knows it. Mom says I need to stop, but I'm better at this than her anyway. She can barely make Dad mow the lawn when he doesn't feel like it anymore. I can make Mac do whatever I tell him to. If he was smart, I would have him do my extra credit work, but I know Miss Norris would fail me. Though she can resist it sometimes, I can make Mom do things too. Mac and Dad don't remember when they are under control. Mom does. What? I'm pretty sure Mom threatened me today. She says that unless I renounce my ways or éloigne mon esprit, then something bad will happen. I don't want to hurt Dad or Mac, so I may go through with it. I'm not afraid of myself. I know that she cannot control me. Is she evil? That was the last entry in my journal. I need to know more! To my horror, I realized that I had managed to remember only the orange ink from my past. Nothing about any of this had ever been recollected in my mind. What the hell was really going on here? I'm so happy. I felt a sharp blow to the back of my head. Stunned, I slumped over, and then my brother was on me again. Mac's eyes seemed void of emotion as he reared back his fist, hitting me several more times. Once I was dazed enough, he began binding my legs together with rope. In my daze, I could make out my mother standing slightly behind him, surveying my cold eyes. I wanted to say something, but my mouth was numb again and my mind was slow. Once Mac tied my wrist behind my back, my mom muttered, "La maison," which means the house, and he hauled me into the house by my collar. I was regaining my senses as he threw me hard onto the floor. He then stood back, crossing his arms, his swollen fist bleeding now. Mom, what the hell is going on? I spat in anger. My mom had her arms crossed as well. Dad was still fast asleep in his chair, his gun slowly slipping out of his grip. You forced me to do this, Darby. You've always had the family talent, I'll give it to you. You probably didn't even need the damn book to invade the minds of weaker people. I thought my father and grandfather were adept at it, but you took it to greater levels. You even made teachers give you grades you didn't deserve. Though you were so smart, none of it was necessary. I was weary of you, but once you started dipping into my mind, well, that couldn't do. Dad, I yelled, and my father jerked awake, the pistol falling to the floor. He took one look at us, but before he could even open his mouth, my mother shouted, "Sommeil!" My dad's eyes dimmed and he fell to the floor, apparently in a deep sleep. I turned back to this woman who I didn't recognize anymore. "So what now? You're gonna kill him too?" She shook her head. "No, I can wipe his mind easily. But you, darling, well, you have reached the end of the line. I showed you mercy the first time. Even after you wiped your own memories, I still considered having your brother kill you. Even if the police connected the dots and figured out that you didn't do it to yourself, well, Mac would be the one to do time, not me. But I let you live. I let you prosper. I wanted you to give me grandchildren to train in the family art, but you don't have balls, apparently. I suppose Elliot will have to do. Maybe he has more willpower than his musclehead father." I was very aware of the pistol lying a few feet behind me. I only needed to stall a little longer. "So why am I alive right now? You could have had Max snap my neck in the yard." "You hid the phones. I'm gonna need those back, Darbs. And you're going to write a suicide note yourself this time. There are other ways I can make you do things." Heathers, 1989. "And you're going to write a suicide note yourself this time. There are other ways I can make you do things." She turned towards the kitchen where my father's toolbox sat open in the counter. I took this opportunity to leap for the gun. I landed right next to it, but before I could even get a grip, Mac kicked me in the back and bent down, picking it up for himself. Well, that cost you an ear. I was gonna have your brother start with your toes, but you just had to be Clint Eastwood, didn't you? What kind of reference? I shouted the first words that came to my mind. Plie-moi. Plie-moi? P-L-I-E. I'll look it up. My brother relaxed now, as did my mother. I stared in complete disbelief at them. Whereas my brother seemed to have lost the light in his eyes, there was not only recognition, but rage in my mother's. I knew what I had to do. She was too dangerous to be left alive. Who knew what she would have my father, the judge, or any security guards do? I don't know the words to say, so tears started running down my face. I spoke them in English. Mom, pick up the gun and shoot yourself in the head. There were tears streaming from her own eyes now, though whether they were from sadness or anger, I can never say. Okay, sorry, my friend called me, but like, the mom's about to shoot herself in the fucking head. There were tears streaming from her own eyes now, though whether they were from sadness or anger, I can never say. Once she did the deed, I told my brother to sleep, and he fell to the floor as well. Veronica found us just a few minutes later. I told the responding officers that my mom had hired someone to do her dirty work, but that when he had failed, she had decided to finish things herself. I claimed that I had talked her out of it, but that she was so overcome with grief and guilt that she took her own life instead. We all cried, and I consoled them as best I could. I knew they would never know. I knew they could never know. I took the journals and the family book and burned them in the wooded area. I don't know if any of my mother's extended family know about the book or the gift, but I'm not worried about them coming after me. I'm better than them at this after all. Oh goodness. Okay. I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed that story. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you to Jean-Ann and Abby for keeping me safe in these trying times. I'm gonna go eat some chips and queso and watch Harry Potter in order to be able to sleep tonight. So, yes, I guess I'll see y'all later. Goodbye from me and Abby. Bye.